back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
All right, welcome back into Sikkim 365 Radio. Time for a little Off the Radar. And taking a look at some stories that we might not otherwise get to, or expounded upon some stories that maybe we've already talked about a little bit. Not nearly as much in the grab bag as I would normally have. We've covered a lot of ground on the show today. But did you watch Monday Night Football last night? Obviously, yes, because it was Cowboys and Eagles, and the Cowboys thoroughly dominated that game. But which broadcast did you watch?
I watched most of the Manning cast.
I didn't watch the entire end of the game because it was over so quickly. I say 95% of it.
The only thing I did was I would flip over to the regular cast when something would happen, so I would get an explanation, because sometimes they're talking to Nick Saban or somebody, and something's going on, and I'm like, okay, well, I want to see what's going on.
There's starting to be a little feedback that maybe they're interviewing too many people.
But I like how Peyton says on the show, here's the feedback. We talk too much to the guests, or I don't do this, I'm not prepared. He raised his arm at a pit stain, and Eli just wore him out for it. I mean, it's fun.
No, they make fun of each other, and they make fun of themselves, and I love it. And then they had Archie on the couch with Eli, and someone put in, I honestly believe that Eli still lives at home with his parents.
Yeah, well, I have not seen the final ratings numbers.
I did see them.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, they're up. They were like 1.8 million last week. I think like 1.89 million. The game itself, the televised game, is like 13 million. But it did eat into part of the numbers just a little bit. But they have the next 2 weeks off.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. They're now taking a break, the Manning brothers. They will not be on the air for the next couple of weeks, as this was scheduled, but they'll have a 3-week hiatus. They'll return during Week 7. That was an announcement that they made last night. That will be the Seahawks and the New Orleans Saints. So that will be the game that the Manning brothers return for. In their deal, it was 10 games that they were going to work during 2021. So they've already had 3 of those, and then the 4th one will be when they return here in a couple of weeks, or in a few weeks, or 3 weeks, excuse me. That will be game number 4, and then we'll see how they kind of divvy them up from there. But they did double from week 1 to week 2 their ratings. I didn't see the final rating for last night's version. I kept looking for it and could not find it. But yeah, I mean, the NFL as a whole, just the regular broadcast, very healthy. They're pouring in big numbers, and a slight uptick.
From Sports TV ratings, this was in Richard Deitch's article, Manning's week 1, 800,000, a 5% of the total audience. Week 2, 1.856 million, 13.5%. Week 3, 1.89 million, which is actually less than a percentage because the Cowboys had a larger audience, but it's growing. I mean, I didn't even know they existed until somebody threw something up on Twitter in the middle of game 1. So, but you know what? Steve Levy doesn't have to, I'm sure. And he's a nice guy. Steve Levy's like the nicest guy. He says if you want to listen or watch the Manning cast, turn it to ESPN2. He knows when he does that. People are, and that says quite a bit about being a teammate right there.
Well, and look, ESPN's going to continue to do stuff like this because they're spending so much money on these things. They need to maximize it and do different things. They've done the coaches thing. Yeah, Steve Levy knows. He's not of 12 million. He got 12 million more viewers on his side of it. So, or whatever it was. So he's doing fine. They're doing great. No. And people are still going to want to watch the traditional broadcast. I can just say my girlfriend Amanda and I watched the first week. We went back and forth. I like the Manning cast because I don't necessarily need or have to have the commentary in the background because I can watch a game. It's like the 3 of us watching in the press box. I'm used to that. I don't know if Amanda's the same way, but she prefers the other way. She thought they talked a little too much, but I enjoyed it. I watched most of the Manning cast last night. So
yeah, my only critique is that it can be a little guesty, a little bit too much. The pull is the brothers, and sometimes who the guests are that they have on. And one of those guests they had on last night was LeBron James. Mm-hmm. LeBron James, he talked about his football career going back to his time in Ohio. And even, we knew LeBron was a big Cowboys fan. I mean, that's been known for quite some time now. But he did delve a little bit more into the almost jump that he made to the NFL talking about how Jerry Jones offered him a contract to play for the Cowboys. And we know the Cowboys and basketball players turning into tight ends. They've, done that with Rico Gathers, and it's not been a brand new thing for them. But, Jerry Jones actually offered him a contract, as did Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks. And he says, got both jerseys that were sent to him by the two franchises when they tried to offer him during the 2011 NBA lockout. So I just look at that and I go, what brilliant business minds the Cowboys and Pete Carroll are. Like, what a perfect opportunity to go and grab LeBron James. And imagine if he would have done it, like with the NBA lockout being such an uncertainty. Imagine the buzz that you would have gotten with LeBron James playing in the NFL. And who knows, maybe he would have been pretty good. Maybe it would have worked for him. I don't know, but
he runs fast.
Yeah,
and
he played in high school, and they talked about his high school clips and all of that. But he had offers from the Cowboys and the Seahawks during the NBA lockout. Obviously, passed on that and remained in the NBA, and they got a deal done with the players and the owners. But
he's an amazing athlete.
It was interesting to hear.
One thing to get hit and bumped around, and I know the NBA can be physical. It's like Michael Jordan could have played safety in the NFL, a wide receiver. I'm not questioning someone like LeBron who does whatever the hell he wants and he's really good at it. But there's a mentality and a physicality, if that's not even the right word, that is so different. And that's why I respect Rico Gathers and then Mark Beidel and also Ish Wainwright for trying to make that change or move. It is an animal. I'm just telling you.
He said he would have been a red zone specialist like Gronk.
Okay.
And then Peyton said, I just know what play we would have been running. He's like, I would have thrown it up to you. And he said, and if you had ever gotten out jumped, I would have been all right. But like that's weird. He said, I would have scored. He goes, we would have scored 75 touchdowns.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. LeBron also got some digs in on his high school quarterback. He's sitting there talking to two Super Bowl winning NFL guys. I think he would have had just a slightly better opportunity as a football player getting passes thrown from Peyton or Eli versus his old buddy in high school.
Smith in high school in Cleveland.
Yeah, Jamie Jones or whoever the guy was. But yeah, they had various guests. Matthew Stafford was on there as well. So just curious, but they are going to be taking a little bit of a break on the Manning cast. Baseball season is down to its final last leg of the regular season. The AL MVP award seems to be a pretty foregone conclusion. I mean, maybe there's a little bit of a debate, but Shohei Ohtani is going to be, for all intents and purposes, your AL MVP winner. But he has been talking a little bit about the Angels' struggles, and nothing that gets you too concerned if you're an Angels fan, but he's one of those guys, kind of like Mike Trout, that at some point, if they can go and sign a big-name free agent every other summer or whatever like they've been doing, but eventually you got to win. Or why do guys keep signing there other than just to live in Southern California?
County, yeah.
I mean, what's the pull because they're not actually winning games despite having star power?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like Mike Trout's there until he dies, apparently. So that's going to be rough for him unless they get better. But they have him. They signed Anthony Rendon last year. They
had the big Josh Hamilton deal years and years ago that did nothing.
But Josh Hamilton and Albert Pujols on that same roster at the same time did nothing for them. Albert Pujols just got older. I mean, he was still a consistent good player, but eventually he just got older. And Josh Hamilton hit the wall. I mean, that was it. That was it for him. His career was on the downside.
I'd love to know how much dead money, and I mean that. Like in the NFL, you have players and then they're gone, they're traded, they get injured, whatever. You don't have dead money in baseball because they're going to get how much dead money, though, based on production that they've spent? Hundreds of millions? The Angels?
Yeah, I would think so.
They're not the only ones.
Baseball's winding down. There's a lot still to be determined, like who's going to lead the statistical categories when all's said and done, who will be your home run champion, who will be your this and your that, who will win, the pitching title and all of that. But good race brewing in the NL West. Giants and Dodgers battling for that one. Yeah.
The Dodgers are going to have to win one game to get to the next round of the playoffs. They're going to have to beat a red-hot St. Louis, correct?
St. Louis, about as red-hot, Paul, as you can find in a baseball team at this point.
They're on fire. Jack reminds me every single day, Jack, our resident Cardinals fan, that they've won 16 games in a row. They keep getting the NL Player of the Week every week. And Dodgers Cardinals in a one-game playoff.
Woo!
I mean, that's
two great traditions as well.
That could knock out the defending World Series champs.
Right off the top. Yeah.
And I would assume if I'm the Dodgers right now, I am doing everything I can to make sure that Max Scherzer pitches in that one-game playoff. That's the guy I want because Max is mad at planet Earth, kind of like me. So I get it.
Yeah, we got a text about you.
Yeah, I don't care.
Well,
I know, but we got to talk about it. We got you and I need to have a therapy session.
I don't care.
Well,
I know you don't, but I do.
One team that's going to be standing in the way of both of those teams as we come here down the stretch is the Padres, not because they're in contention, but because you got to play them. And I just found it an amazing stat that Sporting News had of where at one point in time the San Diego Padres were 17 games above 500, and they are now 78 and 78. I mean, you talk about flaming out.
They put a lot of money into their deal, too.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, and A.J. Preller's pretty much fired everybody up and down the line or reassigned them or whatever. And I thought that NL West was going to be a 3-team race all year long. It's 2.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, AL East, AL wildcard race, also a big topic. You've got
Go Baltimore.
You got the battle for second and third place. I mean, the Rays have a commanding lead at this point in time in the AL East. They've clinched the division. They're the champs, which, man, Tampa just – it really is amazing that they're as consistently good as they are.
It's dumb.
Yeah, it really is. It's also kind of dumb given the lack of support, but
amazing.
It is amazing. So meanwhile, you got the Yankees just slightly above the Red Sox. And, obviously those two teams just saw each other recently. Did not go well for the Boston Red Sox.
But the good
Blue
news
Jays
is,
are lingering as well. So there's a tight little race going on.
The good news for the Red Sox is they played the Orioles for the last 3 games of the season, and the Yankees and Jays play each other, hopefully to tear each other apart so badly that when the one-game playoff hits, they limp and they're wounded. I'm not that optimistic. In spite of 4 World Series in the last 15 years, I am still paranoid, and the little, old Curse of the Bambino Red Sox fan lives in me, so I have no optimism.
I was thinking about they in New York, one of the two wouldn't make it, and they vaulted right past Toronto, and Toronto's won 87 games, 88, 89. So that's a hell of a race. That's fun, man. That's really cool. And here's Seattle. Can they get it? Can they get in it? 87 and 70. They would be ahead of Toronto.
They'd have to, some weird stuff would all have to happen.
Yeah.
Yankees and Toronto playing each other isn't good for Seattle.
Yeah.
All right. So that means just a little fun happening in baseball as we get towards the end. I haven't paid attention much this year as much as I normally would because the team I root for stinks. So that's been a bit of a bummer. But did y'all see the bizarre story of the Ohio State linebacker who's no longer with the team? Okay, it's been a couple of days, but Kayvon Pope was dismissed from the team after blowing up on the sideline Saturday. I just wasn't sure because we hadn't mentioned it. That was bizarre. Yeah, and no surprise that they were like, you're no longer welcome
and
here.
Guess what? His phone's blowing up. People want him to come play because he's very talented, although he looks like he could he's very fragile.
Yes, so that was just kind of a weird deal that is definitely not commonplace in college football as he just up and quit in the middle of a game. Final note, John Jones told you about
he's in trouble
a few days ago that he had gotten he's just been a constant run-in with the law, quite frankly. But just as it appears that maybe he's straightening up and he's going to be fighting for titles and not keep shooting himself in the foot, he gets in trouble the other night, and not just any other night, but the night where he was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. He gets arrested just hours later, and the arrest report is out, and it's not looking good for UFC star John Jones. Arrested in Vegas on Friday, charged with battery, domestic violence, and injuring and tampering with a vehicle. That was all known, but the LVPD released the police report, said he's accused of grabbing a woman's hair, headbutting a cop car, and telling police he wanted to take them all on. He was out with friends until around 11:30. He returned to the hotel where the woman had stayed behind, returned to the room, got angry with her. She told officers that he had grabbed her hair in the back of her head because she was trying to leave, and so on and so forth. Police were called after she went down to the security desk to get a key for the room, and a guard saw blood on her, and she started tearing up and said she was afraid to go back to the room. And one of the woman's children reportedly asked the guard to call police. They observed blood around her lip, chin, and shirt, and she said she was unaware of what happened, but things got a little physical, and she was scared to even talk about John Jones.
And he'll get to fight again.
I don't know. I don't know how at this point. I mean, he's had so many run-ins. He's denied it, and all this and that. But the night you got inducted to the UFC Hall of Fame and all the incidents that you've had, I mean, John Jones he's one of those guys you just cannot get right. So we'll see what happens there, but Yeah, maybe one too many run-ins for the UFC. We'll see, though.
You all that are a part of, boy, did I sound like I was from Texas?
Yeah.
You all of you. Boy, I went straight into that, you all. All of you on the chat room, and some of you who have actually given us a couple of new pieces of information on Evan Stewart. We'll have that after we talk to Grayson Grundhoefer and before we talk to John McClain, because we'll update the story on the young man from Frisco that says he's no longer going to play football as he gets himself mentally and physically ready for the next level, which is football. He might be playing at Florida, probably Texas. Alabama is in the mix among a couple of others. When we come back, Grayson Grundhoefer, he had the